And welcome in to Pressbox Live. And we remind you that Pressbox Live is brought to you by C3 American Exteriors. Good evening. I'm Stan the Fan Charles from Pressbox and PressBoxOnline.com. With me, my co-host, Ross Grimsley, tucked away now in his new abode down in Florida.
Yes, sir.
And in just a moment, we'll introduce our special guest and old friend, Dave Trembley, who managed the Birds back many moons ago from 2007 to 2010. And remind you that Pressbox Live is brought to you, as I said, by C3 American Exteriors. Go to their website at c3america.com to get a brand new roof for just the cost of your insurance deductible. And seriously, if you own a home, and I know Dave and Ross do, there's no greater expense you can incur than fixing or replacing your roof. I know these guys, I like these guys, and I trust these guys. And when you're talking about spending that kind of money, you want people that will stand behind their work. And I know these guys, again, the folks at C3 American Exteriors. The website's a little different, c3america.com, and they present the show every Monday and Wednesday. And that brings me to our special guest tonight, number 47 for the Baltimore Orioles. You still wearing number 47, Dave Trembley?
Yes, I am. Yes,
now,
I
did you wear that all the time in your minor league managerial career?
No, it's an interesting story and a very humbling one. When I first got to the big leagues, I was a major league field coordinator and a bullpen coach in spring training down in Fort Lauderdale. And then Tom Trebelhorn had a personal family matter, so he left, and Sam made me the bench coach. But I had number 18. And then the Orioles traded for a major league player that always wore number 18. So Jimmy came to me and said, "Hey, Dave, would you mind giving up 18?" And I said, "Yeah, go ahead."
Right.
And he gave me number 47. And I was very humbled because in my minor league career, when I was managing, for the Orioles in Bowie, I won the Cal Ripken Senior Player Development Award. And Jimmy told me that, Cal Senior was the last guy that wore 47 as a coach.
Yeah.
And, they liked the way I taught and fundamentals. So I took it as a real humbling thing. And I always wore 47 when I was, with the Orioles. When I went to Houston, I wore 47. I couldn't wear 47 when I went to the Braves because they were retired by Tom Glavine. So I wore 57. And now doing this here in this summer college league, I'm back to 47.
It's funny, the guy who ultimately replaced you in Baltimore, Buck Showalter, wore number 26 as manager of the Orioles because out of fondness for Johnny Oates, who had worn that number when he managed the Baltimore Orioles. So interesting to get into the numbers. It's great to see you again. Since we last talked, I know you knew you were about to get hired for this job. We're managing in the new look Appalachian League, and you're the manager of the Bristol State Liners. And which state are you in? Are you in Bristol, Virginia right now, or Bristol, Tennessee? And tell our listeners and viewers what the thing is with Bristol there.
It's a very interesting Tri-Cities area here. When I flew in from Daytona Beach, I flew into the Tri-Cities Airport, which is Bristol, Johnson City, and Kingsport. And all three of those cities are in Tennessee. But from the airport, within 15 minutes, I was in Bristol, Virginia. And here the ballpark is in Bristol, Virginia, but the main thoroughfare downtown where all the shops and restaurants and, shopping is State Street. And on one side of the street is Bristol, Virginia. And as you cross the street, now you're in Bristol, Tennessee. And interestingly enough, the gentleman who has owned the team here for years, they used to be the Tigers for a long time, then they were the White Sox. In the last 6 years in this league, they were affiliated with the Pirates. Well, he's the mayor of Bristol, Tennessee, but the team is in Bristol, Virginia. And yesterday, we played in Bluefield, where the Orioles were for 54 years, their rookie club. As a matter of fact, my pitching coach, Larry McCall, broke in there as a rookie 50 years ago. He pitched in rookie ball, Ross, 50 years ago for the Bluefield Orioles. And Cal Ripken Sr. was his manager. And where the ballpark ballpark is in Bluefield. It's in Bluefield, Virginia. But where the parking lot is for the ballpark, right outside, is in Bristol, West Virginia. So everything is very close here. It's a great league. We have a lot of trips where we go to Kingsport, Johnson City, Elizabethton, Greenville that are all less than 45 minutes. So it makes for a nice travel league for us.
Now, before I give you over to Ross, who I know is chomping at the bit to talk to you about what you've got the ability to do, I want to just ask you to explain the new look Appalachian League. Are these players that have been drafted by clubs, or are these players on display for scouts to see whether they would want to sign them or draft them?
What there are is this league was formed by Major League Baseball and USA Baseball.
Okay.
And it came out of the commissioner's office, Morgan Sward, who's an assistant to Commissioner Manfred, and the people at USA Baseball, headed up by Eric Campbell, Ashley Brachter, and Jim Coyner, who's the director of player development. There's 350 players in this league. The rosters are 35 players. There's 10 teams, and it's exactly the same 10 affiliates that have been in the Appalachian League for a long time. The Braves were in Danville. The Mets were in Kingsport. Cincinnati was in Greenville. The Twins were in Elizabethton. The Jays were in Bluefield. They took the place of the Orioles.
Yeah.
So all the teams are the same, but these are college freshmen and sophomores. And really the title of the league is the Major League Baseball, USA Baseball Summer College Wood Bat League. These are all freshmen and sophomore players at colleges, some major colleges, some very small, some NAIA schools. And everybody's got a 35-man roster. And these players have been recommended by scouting directors and college coaches and a board of directors at both USA Baseball and MLB. So a lot of these players will be eligible for the draft in 2022. They're not eligible
next
now.
summer. Okay.
Next summer, they'll be eligible for the draft. So the league is being run basically as a rookie ball league to introduce these players to the nuances of professional baseball, get used to using a wood bat, travel, staying in hotels. We play 6 days a week. Today, Monday is a regular scheduled day off. We play Tuesday through Sunday, and we play 2-game series. So tomorrow we play Danville 2 games in a row. Then the next 2 games we play Johnson City, and the next 2 games we play Elizabethton, and then Monday off, and then we go again. So it's a 9-week schedule. We were here 4 or 5 days before to get some practice in, and it's 54 games, 9 times 6, 54 games, and we end the second week of August.
Ross, go ahead. I know you're chomping at the bit.
I know. I'll get to what I want to really talk about in a minute. But hey, Dave, do these guys, do they stay overnight in these cities when they go on the road?
Yeah, like anything that's more than an hour bus ride, anything that's more than an hour bus ride, we're staying in hotels.
Right.
We went to Bluefield yesterday. It was about an hour and 50 minutes. And it was a 2-game series. So we went the first day and played. We stayed that night. We played yesterday afternoon and came home after the game. So they're getting used to the nuances of travel, staying in a hotel, taking BP at the field, the locker rooms, the clubhouse. Right. It's a new experience for them having played college baseball.
Do they get, obviously they don't get a pay for this, do they?
No, because they're college athletes, you can't pay them, but all their expenses are paid for as far as their travel. We're all staying in a team hotel here in Bristol, which is paid for. And one of the nice things is you could remember, we don't have to check out when we're on the road. So everybody gets to keep their room the entire summer. And everybody gets a debit card where money is added. Meal money is added every week. Every Tuesday, they get meal money that's added to a debit card, and they can use it forever they want. But MLB and USA Baseball has contracted out in every city meals for the players. So they get a pregame meal when they get to the ballpark every day at 1 or 2 o'clock, and then they get a postgame meal after the game. So their only expense is their breakfast. And even on off days, meals are provided for them. So Major League Baseball and USA Baseball has done a real nice job in those areas.
So
Right.
can I
That-
jump in, Ross? Can I
Yeah, go
jump
ahead.
in for just a second? So is the purpose of this, Dave, twofold? It seems like it replaces these cities' minor league teams that have gone away. That's
Hmm.
number one. And number two, do they think this will make better? And I know this is what Ross wants to get into. Do they think this experience will end up creating better baseball players down the road?
Yeah, it's a 10-team league. It's the same 10 teams. I think it's been a win-win for baseball, Major League Baseball. And I think more importantly, it's been a win-win in two factors. One, for the communities that have had baseball for such a long time. You know, the Braves were it was the Danville Braves for 27 years, and all the players, I mean, I could rattle off all the players that are in the big leagues now with the Braves, from Acuna, Pache, Albies, Riley, Anderson, all those guys came through there. I think the other thing what Major League Baseball and USA Baseball is trying to do is create interest in the youth in this country of playing baseball, and also maybe streamlining, you know, the things that are in amateur baseball now. The number one league was probably the Cape Cod League for
Right.
a long time. And then you have the Northwoods League, you have some other leagues. I think Major League Baseball and USA Baseball are looking at this experience here with the 10 teams in the Appy League to be the league of player development. And that's why we're here. We've been a player development guy to teach, the guys the nuances so that when they get to professional baseball, it's not such an alarming experience
Right.
coming from
Yeah.
college baseball.
I got
College
you.
baseball, Ross, we could get into it. I've just been amazed at, the lack of instinct that our players showed when they first got here. Ross, you'd appreciate this. One of the first things I did when I got the roster of the players is I called all the pitchers. And then I called the catchers and I said, men, we're not calling pitches.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
The catchers will have none of those wristbands on their wrists. There'll be no cue cards in your hat. So you take your hat off every time when there's a guy on second or when you're in trouble to see which pitch to throw. The position players won't have any cards on their back pocket or on their belt buckle. We're going to try and teach baseball instincts and give these guys an opportunity to develop the skills that they have. So I think that's the real purpose of the league.
Okay.
And the players have just been outstanding, being so receptive to the approach that we're taking.
That's great. Now, I'm not going to say you're an old school guy. I'm going to say
I'm
you're
an
a
old
big
school guy, Ross.
I know. I'm not going to say it though.
I'm an old school guy. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with the old school.
No,
I look at it like the old school is the right school.
You're right.
And
But you're a baseball guy, know,
Yeah.
and you teach baseball to baseball players. That's what you're doing. Now,
Right.
How I know with the way the Major League Baseball is, they have the analytics and God, we did the analytics, but we did it with a ruler and a pencil, and a piece of paper in that, and kept up with this. But I know you probably wouldn't have done this if you couldn't do the baseball,
Well,
and not rely so much on the analytics and what have you. Don't get me wrong, and I'm sure, and that they have their use,
right.
But baseball is baseball. Teaching guys how to play, we see it every day in the major leagues. Missed cutoff miss, not knowing where to go, not covering first, doing all of these little things. My question is, when you took this job, were you given the latitude to go and teach baseball, basically?
Yeah, I wouldn't have taken it if I couldn't do it that way. Major League Baseball and USA Baseball, I asked them a very few questions when we were discussing the opportunity to come here. And I asked them, can I teach baseball fundamentals? Or are we going to rely on, totally analytics? And to their credit, both Major League Baseball, the people at Major League Baseball, and more importantly, the people that put the rosters together at USA Baseball, they said, Dave, the purpose of this league is player development. We want you to teach baseball fundamentals. And one of the nice things is they paralleled it a lot, like how the Arizona Fall League has been. You have to take batting practice every day on the field. Every other day, both teams are required to take infield after BP because there's scouts here. There's front office people here. There's college coaches that are here looking for players. There's a lot of our guys that are in the transfer portal because of the COVID. They're looking to go someplace else. So, we're out on the field every day for a 7:00 game at 2:45. We do a fundamental, cuts and relays, picks, rundowns, bunt defense, first and third, the PFP. Then we bunt off the machine every day. We go into BP, we run the bases. The guys go in, change into their uniforms. They come back out at 10-6. We take a full infield the first day of every series. And that's the way it is for 6 days until they get a day off. And as you could understand, Ross, and appreciate, one of the things I told these guys at the end of the year, you're going to appreciate what guys at the highest level do. It's a grind.
Yep.
The guys in college are used to pitching once a week. They pitch on Friday. They don't pick up the ball in between. They don't do bullpens. They don't do sides. They don't do bunt plays, pickoffs, PFP. They don't condition. Position players don't take infield all the time. They want to hit. This is what players they want to hit, and they want to see what their spin rate and their velocity is as far as throwing the baseball.
Right.
And we've told them there's 5 crucial things if you want to play professional baseball. And it's very simple, as we could relate to. It's throw strikes, make the routine play, get a good pitch to hit, okay, make good decisions on the bases. And the 5th one is analytics cannot tell me this. My eyes tell me this. Compete. Can you compete? What do you do in situations when things aren't going well for you? If you kick one, or if you're on the mound and, the guy behind you, there's a 4-out inning, guys will learn to compete, I think, in this environment. And, the good ones will rise to the top.
Right.
That's player development.
Now, do you see, are the other managers, coaches doing this with the other teams? Are they?
Yeah,
implementing
I mean,
Can you give us some of the names of the other
sure.
managers? Yeah.
We went to Bluefield yesterday. Guy played in the big leagues for a long time. In fact, he was the catcher in Vermont in 1987 when I was managing in Harrisburg, and the star pitcher was Norm Charleston, and the catcher was Joe Oliver. Joe Oliver.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Black Jack McDowell, Cy Young winner.
Wow.
Stanford, pitched for the White Sox for a long time, pitched for the Yankees. He's managing in Burlington. Desi Relaford.
Yep.
Is managing. He played 7 positions in the big leagues. I remember him in 1994 when I was managing in Orlando. He played in Jacksonville at second base, and his double play partner was Alex Rodriguez. All of the managers that are in this league have either major league experience as a player or coaching experience, managing experience in the minor leagues. There's a couple guys. Rick Mignani he's managing in Johnson City. He spent 30 years in the Oakland organization managing short season clubs. There's a great group. My pitching coach is Larry McCall.
Sure.
Barbaro Garbey is my hitting coach.
Yep.
He played on the '84 Tigers World Series team.
He was one of the first. He was one of the first modern Cuban guys to play.
He was the first Cuban to come over on the boat.
Yeah.
And played in the big leagues, and it was a very good player. We were together, with the Braves. One of the nice things USA Baseball allowed me to do, they said, Dave, you can pick your coaches. So I wanted to get coaches that had major league experience, also had experience in the minor leagues, teaching young players the nuances of how to play the game. And if you look around the league, you could go to the website and you could see the list of all the managers and the coaches, and I bet you dollars to donuts, 90% of them are guys that have a lot of years in experience. And the other thing that USA Baseball did, I have a graduate assistant as my 4th coach, and he is from Grambling State, and he's got some coaching experience in the college level and the amateur level, and he'd like to get into professional baseball or make a career out of baseball. So he's here as my 4th coach. So what we're doing also is not only developing players, but we're trying to develop staff. Because I think we would all agree the game is in need of good teachers and good coaches. And that's what we're trying to do here.
Dave, I wanted to ask you how receptive these players are to the way you're trying to teach and what you're trying to teach or are they like the hairs crawling up the back of their head at it? I mean, are they receptive to it?
Yeah, I couldn't be more happy and prouder of the guys. We have guys that the basic things that Ross and I or you would be exposed to when we were growing up playing on the sandlot, these kids have not been exposed to. It's been, the era of young players that we're getting now is travel ball and showcase people. That's what they are. They have no concept of team baseball. They have no concept of, quality at bats, holding runners,
It's
you
so
know,
strange.
Moving,
So
moving a
strange.
base runner up.
They've come from an era just like a lot of guys, and this is no disrespect.
Yeah,
A lot of guys in the big leagues are very
Right.
selfish,
yeah,
Just
very
watch the team.
self-centered.
no question.
Okay, they don't play for the team. We're trying to teach guys the importance of playing for the team. I tell the position, but you're going to have 4 at bats tonight. 3 of them are going to be for yourself, but 1 of them is going to be for the team, because you're going to come up in a situation one time tonight, and a guy on second, we're going to try and move him over. A guy on third in the infield back, we're going to try and hit a ground ball to score him. If you can control the bat, I'm going to ask you to hit and run that time. If it's first or second in the 8th inning, I'm going to ask you to bunt. The other 3 are yours, but we're going to try and teach guys the importance of playing for the team, not for yourself. And the guys have been just outstanding with me, because the first thing I told them was, you guys don't know where I'm coming from, and I hope you'll just trust.
Right.
You'll just trust that what we're trying to do is not for me. We've already been there, Russ. We've been there and done that. We're doing this for the game because I'm concerned of the direction that the game's going. And if we don't get a hold of this real soon, we're going to lose a lot of interest in young people that are playing the game, because quite honestly, the game at the major league level in a lot of instances is boring.
Right.
Okay. It's strike out or hit a home run.
Right.
That's it. They make mistakes on the bases. No one goes first to third anymore. People don't hit and run. The Yankees have got more guys thrown out on the bases, and they don't try to steal bases. If they don't hit a home run, they lose.
Yeah.
And that's not the direction that I think the game should be going, and that's why we're doing this.
Dave, can
Do
you
you think the people at the big league level know that have implemented this format in this league? Do you think they realize what's going on and how important it is to make the change and get back to playing the game the way it was designed to be played?
I think the key word that we've tried to communicate and is I've accepted that analytics is going to be here part of the game.
Right.
But what I've tried to get across to the powers that be at Major League Baseball and USA Baseball have been great to me is I've used the word balance. I think we need to balance it out. I think for the last few years, we've gone too far with the analytics. And all these pitchers, Ross, you'd be amazed at the pitchers. We come out early to stretch, run, and throw. I got guys that take up to 45 minutes to an hour to get ready, because they've all come through the driveline program. They got all these weighted balls, these tubes, they're stretching, this and that. And I say, no. That's not how you get loose. Larry, let's go down there and show these guys, if they were getting ready to pitch in the major leagues, what their daily routine would be, what they do the day after they pitch, what their conditioning program is, how you arm care, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And the people that have put this league together, I think they're very intuitive and they're very smart, because, Rob Manfred has put Theo Epstein in charge. He's trying to design.
It sounds like this is Theo's baby, almost.
It's they're looking, and they're doing things in the Atlantic League. They're trying to do some other things in some other leagues to see what they can do to make the game more appealing for fans and to get more players involved. We need to get more players in this country involved in playing baseball at the youth levels, so that now we can teach them and they can come up through the high school and the college and then go into professional baseball. We're losing those guys to other sports.
So let me ask you a question. It's got to be probably 35, 40 years ago that we stopped in high school and college. They stopped using wooden bats all the time because of economics. Now, when you hear the term, this is a wooden bat league, and I always heard it about the Cape Cod League. What is necessary for a young hitter to learn about using wood versus the metal? I mean, it's a big difference, isn't it?
Yeah, most of these guys, at their college season, they know they're going to come here. So towards the last month or something, they start using the wood bat. I mean, Barbaro had to show a lot of guys how to hold the bat with the label up. But the big difference that you see, and Ross, you'd love it, guys with the aluminum bat, they can be real late and they never get jammed because they can hit the ball on the inside part of the plate. USA Baseball and Major League Baseball is providing all the equipment. So these guys got endless supply of bats, catcher's gear, balls, helmets. I mean, it's been beautiful. But we have, in the league as a whole, there have been more broken bats that I've seen than you can possibly imagine, because guys don't know how to, they really don't know how to, get to the inside pitch without getting jammed a lot. You see a lot of these kids get jammed a lot with the wood bat because they're not used to, the proper swing path with a wood bat.
Ross, go ahead.
Tell us, I mean, I know there's some new rules in the league. If you could talk a little bit about them and how you guys feel about it as staff and how the players feel about it.
Well, we had a situation, not last night, but the night before, then we had one last week. When you get to the 10th inning, they play international rules. They don't play the man on second base like they do in the big leagues. When it gets to the 10th inning and the score is tied, the last two outs in the lineup from the previous inning, the last out goes to second base. The next guy goes to first. So you play the top of the 10th with guys on first and second, and you play the bottom of the 10th with guys on first and second. We had a situation the other night where we got to the bottom of the 10th. We were playing Johnson City at home. They scored a run in the top of the 10th to go ahead 5-4. We got first and second, and I had a kid up and I asked him to bunt. He got the bunt down. We went second and third. The next guy come up and got a hit. We won the game. And, everybody kind of, the next day I said, hey, you see the importance of the bunt? If you get the bunt down, you probably got a chance to win. If you don't get the bunt down, we're going to lose. So, guys could buy into that. If it goes to the 11th inning, which is the final inning you could play in this league, if it's tied after that, it's a tie game. But it's we haven't got there yet, and I hope we don't get to this yet. You wouldn't like this as a pitcher.
Yeah.
It's the bases loaded and nobody out in the 11th inning.
In the 11th inning.
Right.
And that's a hitter's paradise, obviously.
Yeah.
And it forces you to, you have to play the infield in, you got to play the outfield in, and it'd be a tough L for that pitcher to have to take on his resume, but we haven't got to that yet. Yeah. There's one other rule that's going to go into effect after when the first half of the season is over, and that's July 8th. Say Ross Grimsley is pitching, he starts the game for me, and in any inning that he's pitching, if he throws more than 25 pitches in an inning, Ross, how we used to do it in the minor leagues in spring training, they would just yell, roll the inning.
Roll it.
And the pitcher learns nothing from it. The hitter's up there walking off, and there's guys on second and third and one out, and then you start the next inning. Well, in this league, what they're going to do starting the middle of July, if you were the pitcher and you have a cap of throwing 25 pitches in an inning, if you go over 25, I can put another pitcher in to finish that inning, okay, to get the second and the third out. Mm-hmm. And then the next inning, I can put you back out there to pitch, so that, say your pitch limit for tonight is 65 pitches. We're doing that. And I think what everybody's agreed to in the league for starting pitchers is no one's going to go more than 6 innings this season. We're going to cap guys between 75 to 85 pitches as a starter, and that's it, because everybody's staff is 18 to 20 pitchers. So you rotate the ball around. Sure. You're using, when we started the season, our starters were going 2 innings. Then the next time they went 3. Just yesterday, we got our starter up to 4. So you're using 3 or 4 guys out of the pen every night, which is good. And just like in professional baseball, if a guy throws 25 or more, he gets a day off. If he throws 2 innings, he gets 2 days off. If he's up to 40 pitches, we give him 3 days off, and then we go again. So those are the only things that are as far as rules with the first and second, and then the bases loaded, and the re-entry. You could re-enter the pitcher if you take him out, if he maximizes his pitch count in one inning.
Can you bring the guy, say the first inning, I got 25 pitches, you bring the reliever in, he finishes the inning, I go back out. Can that reliever come back in at any time?
Yes, he can. Yes, he can. Yes, he can. Yes, he can.
Dave, if you had a gut feeling, and I do have some other areas we want to go into, we wanted to talk to you a little bit about Major League managing and what's going on now with the inspections of the sticky stuff on the hands and all that. But if you had a gut feeling of the 35 guys that you're managing, do you think any of them will play Major League Baseball?
I don't know. You know, a lot of that is up to them. I tell the guys, you know, preparation is the key, commitment, persistence. All of these guys have tools. And Rocky Bridges used to tell me, he said, yeah, a lot of guys have tools, but they have no toolbox, which, you know, we've seen a lot of guys that have tools, but they can't play.
Right.
You know, they got great bodies, but they can't play. There's some guy, we have guys from major colleges here that I think next year, you know, they're going to get drafted. Now, whether or not they get to the major leagues, I'm not so sure. There's some guys on our staff, and I've seen in this league, that I would say pitching wise, there's probably more guys in the league that have an opportunity to pitch at the major league level than position players. And I think that is very coincidental with the draft. The drafts have always been very thin position player wise,
Yeah.
and very heavy pitcher wise.
And my other question for you is minorities. You know, the game is trying to do some things to get African-American players back interested in playing baseball. They've been losing them to football and basketball for years. What is the percentage in your league of the 350 players? Is it a handful of black kids, or is there 30 or 40 of them, 50 of them?
I would say there's more than 40. I mean,
Okay.
we have a pretty good group on our club. You know, the gentleman who is a graduate assistant at Grambling State, he's an African American, and
Right.
you know, we're trying to develop him as a staff member down the road to get into professional baseball. But I would, you know, we played Bluefield yesterday, and I would say of their starting 9, half were African Americans.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, I think Major League Baseball and USA Baseball has done a good job in attracting that. Those guys are playing in college.
Yeah.
It's our center fielder, TJ Jackson. He's from Chicago, and he's starting center fielder at the University of Illinois. He reminds me of a young Don Buford. He's a little guy. He can really run. He's got a little pop in the bat. And next year, I would draft the kid, because you never know, you know, where it could take him.
Ross?
David, is this kind of like extended spring training, this type of league?
You know, I've been in, you know, I've seen, you know, I never managed in a short season club, but with the Braves, when I was field coordinator and player development director, I traveled and I saw the rookie ball levels. I would say at some nights, this is very similar to the New York Penn League.
Yeah.
You know, because the New York Penn League is mostly all college players. The Gulf Coast League and the Appy League were mostly high school players. They just got drafted in June. The New York Penn League and the Northwest League were mostly college guys in that league. I would say this is a little bit better than the extended, because most of the kids in extended, and this is no disrespect, are kids
Right.
that we always had from the Dominican academies, and they were 16 and 17 years old, and they were really way behind in fundamentals.
Yes.
And knowing the how to play the team game. They were kids that came out of basically tryouts down there. You know, the Biscones had those guys going to tryouts 5 or 6 a day to try to get signed by a club, and they were in the academies, and they didn't play a lot. They had not played games. Those kids down there had not. They didn't play high school baseball. They didn't play college baseball. So I think this league is better than extended.
Dave, let me jump in and ask you one last question about this topic, and then I do want to move into a little major league talk. But are there 3 or 4 other leagues like this across the country, or maybe 7 or 8, where they're making up for the vacuum left by the minor leagues reshuffling?
I'm not sure of that. I don't know any other leagues that were retracted. I know the
Okay.
Appy League was definitely retracted. I think I'm not sure if the Pioneer League was or not, and what they
Okay.
did out there. But I think this is the only league that is sanctioned by Major League Baseball and USA Baseball. The Cape Cod League is not a Major League Baseball US. That's
Right.
a separate entity
Separate
there.
entity altogether.
The Atlantic League is an independent league. You
Mhm.
know, the guys that are playing the St. Paul Saints or that league out, those are independent players that
Gotcha.
are looking to get back, with an affiliation, an organization. A lot of instances, those guys are ex-major league players or AAA players. This
So
league,
this is really unique. Yeah.
yeah, this is a development league for
Yeah.
young freshmen and sophomore college players with, Girardi's son is playing in this league. Alex Karros' son is playing in this league. I managed Homer Bush 31 years ago in the minor leagues in the South Atlantic League. And the other day I see Homer Bush Jr., his son, is playing center field, and his dad was there. And I said, we were both crying. And there's guys in this league whose dads played in the big leagues.
Yep.
And it's neat to see.
Dave, I want to ask you the differences between what you went through managing the Baltimore Orioles and what you think Brandon Hyde is going through right now managing the Baltimore Orioles, because you never had, in some ways, the benefit of a really coherent rebuild. You were sort of like thrown in, and it was going to be part rebuild, part when Peter wanted to spend some money. What do you think? Is it comparable or different?
No, it's different. And I talked to Brandon when he got the job, and I think the last time I was on with you gentlemen, I told Brandon he's in for a 5-year program.
Okay.
And I think the best thing that, Mike Elias and Sig and John Angelos, all those people with the Orioles could do is be honest to the fans, because as we all know, the fans in Baltimore, there's none any better. They love their team, but they're very smart. And
Yeah, really.
they're very smart. And, I compare the fans in Baltimore with the fans in St. Louis. They're probably the 2 smartest groups of people that really understand the game, and they buy into, if you're honest with them, they buy into what's going on. The difference is, for me, is, any player that we had that had any value at all, and he made a little bit of money. And I remember Crow telling me, Terry Crowley telling me, hey, by the All-Star break, anybody that's here that's any good and making a little money is going to get traded. And sure enough, they all got traded. George
Yeah.
Sherrill saved 34 games for me one year, and the next year at the trading deadline, he was gone.
Right.
Aubrey Huff got traded. Guys that had value got traded, and I think it was, a cost-cutting situation.
Sure.
For the organization at that time. And we really didn't have, a lot of position players coming up through the system. We traded for Jones. We got Wieters in the draft, but position player wise, there wasn't a whole lot of movement. Now we had some pitchers that got hurt. We were counting on Lowen. We were counting on, Mattis. We were, Chris Cassell. We were counting on those guys to be the next wave, but that didn't happen. And so for Brandon, I think what he has that I didn't have, to be really honest with you, is he's got longevity. No one has ever said what his length of his contract is, and I hope it's, I hope they give.
I hope it's not being determined by wins and losses.
I'm going to say, I hope they allow the guy to be around when the team gets good.
Yeah.
Because as Joe Madden told me and other guys that were, he said, somebody's going to take the punches for all this. And the manager takes the heat and takes the punches. Yeah. He's got to go on that interviews thing every night before the game and answer the questions. and you really can't say what you want to say.
Really.
And so I hope, the front office will stick with Brandon and they develop some good players. They get competitive next year, but
let me
it's not
jump
fun.
in. Let
It's
me
not
jump
fun.
in. You ended up being on the coaching staff with Bo Porter, who was in the exact same situation that Brandon was in, and Jeff Lunau and the people in Houston didn't give him the longevity because he probably could have done what AJ Hinch did to a certain extent because there was talent coming up in that organization.
There's no question about it. I'm if you have really good players, you're a really good coach, and you're a pretty good manager. I don't care what anybody says, and I understand people can look at the rosters that we had when we were there from 2007 to 2010 and see how many of those guys in 2007 and 2000 did they ever play in the big leagues again?
Yeah.
No, they did not. It was the same situation when we went to Houston. The difference is when Bo took over in Houston, Lunau and his front office was very honest. We were going to tank on purpose to get the draft picks for the next 3 years. And so we're begging to have Springer make the club, Correa make the club, all these guys, McCullers make the club. They said, no, you're going to lose. We're not going to have those guys make the club and get another year of service time. We're going to keep those guys down in the minor leagues. So, we took our lumps and lost 100 games 2 years in a row. And then all of a sudden, Jim Crane, who was the owner, they decided to spend some money and go out and sign some free agents. And Correa and Springer and McCullers and Bregman and these guys were ready to come to the big leagues. And all of a sudden, the manager is, he's Sparky Anderson.
Yeah.
You got to have good players. If you don't have good players, it's not going to happen.
Ross, you got a couple more?
Oh yeah, I got one. I know you look at back with Houston when they were just starting. They were going through this thing. You had Keuchel, you had Altuve, you had Springer came up, and they were younger guys. I think now here in Baltimore, or there in Baltimore, you have Mancini, who's 28, 29. I mean, he continues to play well. There's a good chance they may move him, I would think. I mean, again, but your Mullins, what, 26, 27? I mean, you got some older guys here that by the time this team gets good, these guys are going to be in their 30s.
Yeah, you got to have some guys. This. The goal of player development, and this was when I went over to the Braves. And it was explained to me very, very clearly by John Sherholtz and Bobby Cox. Our goal was develop one guy every year that could pitch and go to the big leagues and develop one position player every year and supplement the team that way. And that's what we did with Acuna, Riley, Albies. If you look at the team, and the pitching, Kyle Muller just pitched last night, Anderson, Bryce Wilson, Soroka. We tried to make sure that every year there was one or two, and we hit the jackpot because the Braves had very good scouting and player development. There was 2 or 3 guys every year supplementing guys that were going to be free agents or they didn't want to pay the big salaries to anymore, and they stepped right in, and that's what happens. You got to have guys in the minor leagues that are ready to come up there. You got older guys now in Baltimore, like Ross says. They're going to be 26, 27, 28, 29. Your only option to put a winning club on the field is if you don't have a minor league system and guys ready to make the jump to the big leagues, you're going to have to go out and spend some money and sign guys or make trades and trade your prospects that are lower level that might not be ready to play in the big leagues, to get a more competitive team at the league level.
I've got one last question for you. It involves this whole thing now that's the current craze with the umpires inspecting players' hats and gloves, sticky substances. If we go back to the rosin bag, this is long before analytics. The rosin bag was an admission that the ball's kind of slippery, and put your hand on the rosin so you can grip the ball a little bit better. What's what's the difference today with these sticky substances combining with analytics and spin rate? It really has created an unfair edge, hasn't it?
I wish they wouldn't unveil or make public what the spin rates are.
Yeah.
I think that puts everybody in a bad spot. I think the umpires are in a real bad spot. I think Mike Schlitt, who the manager for the Cardinals, he came out and and said a bunch of things, and because his pitcher got inspected when he came in, and then 2 or 3 days later, you heard all this what's going to happen down the road. I think the umpires are in a bad spot. I don't think it's a good look for baseball. If you look at the baseball, the umpires don't even rub the balls up anymore.
Right.
The bat boys are the clubhouse guys. They rub the balls up.
Right.
And the balls are slick. The seams are different. They've changed the ball. It seems like the last 3 years, the ball has changed every year.
Every year, yeah.
I understand and I think it's a safety issue too.
Yeah.
The guys are throwing harder, and if they can control the ball a little bit better, I think it might minimize, some injury factors. But I wish, for my own personal, I wish this would have happened in the off season, not in the middle of the season.
I agree totally with you.
It seems like instead of being proactive, the game has become reactive. We reacted in the middle of the year. We could have been proactive last off season or this coming off season to see if we could come up with a little bit better solution.
Hey, money aside, I'm wondering, there's nothing like managing in the big leagues for somebody that's a manager, but you look happier, much more relaxed than you were when the pressure cooker of managing a bad big league club. Am I right? Are you happier?
There's no question. Jim Palmer, who was as good as gold to me when I was in Baltimore, as a guy that's one of the greatest pitchers of all time. He took me under his wing, and he told me quite honestly, he said, Dave, I'm going to take a picture your first year when you start managing, and I'm going to take an after picture when you're done, and you're going to age tremendously because you're not going to have very good teams. And I don't care who you are, money, whatever. If you care, it hurts.
Yeah.
It's no fun to lose.
No.
And when you care, and I cared because I got to understand people like yourself and the people in Baltimore, what a passion they had for the team. And I felt like I wasn't doing my best job. We weren't winning, and I took it personal, and it really almost put me in a bad place. And
Well, you look much happier and more.
but I've been away from that, for 11 years. But the 4 years I was there, 3.5 years I was there, I related to Brandon Hyde last week. They lost 14 we lost 13 in a row one time. We go into Cleveland and it's not fun. It's just not fun when you're probably the other team's going to have to give it to you to win. You're not going to beat them. They're going to have to make a mistake because you're just not that good. And I remember Ty Wigington, who was a tremendous guy. He loved to play. Yep. And he wanted a player. I remember being in New York, and we're in New York. We're staying at the Hyatt there, right there on Grand Central and 42nd Street. And we come in from getting beat in Cleveland. And it's our 13th loss in a row. And my phone rings as we get in, and he says, Dave, I just wanted to call and tell you I care about you, but don't take it personal because we don't have a very good team. And that came from a player.
Yeah.
And, every day we tried to come out there with a real positive attitude and sign autographs and keep a stiff upper lip and do the press conferences and talk to the fans and the media. And it didn't work out the way we wanted it to work out. But this situation here it's rejuvenated me because what we're trying to do is help the game and help the players. And if we can do that, I feel as if it's a real good ending in the chapter of my book.
Ross said at the beginning, before we went on the air, he said, you get to teach baseball to baseball players.
Yes.
And that really is kind of special.
It is the greatest thing ever that you get to do that. And as as a person that was in it almost 50 years myself, and seeing what's happened. My last year was 2014, and I get to talk about it because I did some things for the radio and what have you, and I couldn't be a part of it, but I saw this changing. I saw it changing when I was coaching, and I just started going in a bad direction, and I'm going and just talking to people that are in the game around it and making comments about, well, we can't do this, and you ought to see that. I can't tell you, but you got to. I'm going, gee, Chris, only thing I can do now is talk about it. But Dave, I'm so thrilled that a baseball person, I'm sure there's more people like you that are actually getting to like teach baseball to baseball people and get this game back, get the interest, like you said, with the young people and get it to grow again and get it to be what it used to be. Baseball's given me everything I have in the world.
I'm with you, Ross. I'm with you. A lot of people I've talked to in the game, and this was a long time ago. I saw it coming in 2005, 2006 when I was in the minor leagues for the Orioles, and the guys are telling me their hands are tied. You really can't do a whole lot. You can't teach. You write the lineup, you let them play, and the analytics will run the game for you. And I could not do that. And when I was with the Braves were probably the last organization that was the old school with Bobby Cox and Bobby Dews, John Sherholtz, Paul Snyder. Right. They had people in their player development department that were managers and coaches, been there 40 years.
Yes.
And I saw it coming my last year there where, it was really changing. So I decided to take a step back. But this opportunity here to do this has just been really, really great for me because I love the game like you do. I love the players, and we're not doing it for any other reason other than to try and help the game, because I got to the big leagues when I was 55 years old. I spent so much time in the minor leagues and riding buses and eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Oh yeah.
and my first year, man, I didn't have any coaches and throwing all that BP and
right,
not making any money. And we're trying to do some things now to help the game. And to the credit of Major League Baseball and more importantly, USA Baseball, I think they see the writing on the wall.
That's great.
We better get a hold of this thing before it's too late.
Yes.
Because if we don't get a hold of it before it's too, we're going to lose the fans. And to Major League Baseball, the fans are money.
You got it.
And make no mistake, the game is a game, but to Major League Baseball and the owners, it's a business.
Dave, we'll try and round you up sometime in the fall. All right.
Oh, I'll look forward to
the World Series
or
something like that. All right. It's great to catch up.
Stay young,
again.
Man. Stay young and keep going.
Forever young. Number 47, Dave Trembley.
Yes, sir.
Want to remind you that Press Box Live has been brought to you by C3 American Exteriors. Go to their website at c3america.com to get a brand new roof for just the cost of your insurance deductible. Remember, like Ross and I always say, there's no more expensive work that you may have to do on your home one day than fixing or replacing a roof. In that case, you need to know, like, and trust the people you're working with. I know the owner, one of the owners of C3 American Exteriors, and I trust them and I like them, and you will too. Go to their website at c3america.com. Get a brand new roof for the cost of your insurance deductible. Thursday evening, we will have on Drew Forrester, local talk show guy in Baltimore, and he has Drew's Morning Dish on his website. Drew Forrester has qualified for the Senior Open golf tournament. So that's pretty exciting stuff. Ross, I'm handing you the ball. Can you find us somebody for next week?
Got it. I got it.
You're on it?
I'm on it. On it like a fumble.
All right. I'll talk to you later in the week, okay?
Got you, man.
Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Don't forget the O's are playing tonight in Houston. Good night, everybody. See you Thursday night with Gary Stein and Drew Forrester. Also brought to you by C3 American Exteriors. Give my love to Bird.
I will.